Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Litter Media Live on this September 11th, 2024. And as we begin our show today, we certainly remember those that were lost on this date now 23 years ago. And later in the show, we will most likely talk more about our experiences that happened on that day, 2001. And this is just a lighthearted thing as we think about that image, remembering them. Mm-hmm. How often have you seen the 9/11, we never forget, that sort of thing, which is all true. However, today being my wedding anniversary, I never have to forget that. I have to make sure I remember it. And
better not.
So precisely. So happy anniversary to my darling bride, and a birthday we missed yesterday. Michael Frank.
Well, the young lad is no longer a young lad.
No, well, he's
younger than us.
He's not been a young lad for a long time. But happy birthday to what was my son away from son when Dan Jr. was off in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. Michael Frank was a stand-in. Even slept in Danny's bed one night.
How about that?
Yeah, we came back from Indianapolis covering the Brickyard 400, and I wasn't going to make him drive home because it was like, 1 o'clock or something like that when we got home. And
did you have to change the sheets after he left?
I believe. Well, I'm not going to say.
So he didn't wet the bed or anything like that.
Not that I know. No. So, all right, today is Patriot Day, so we will, again, reflect a little bit later on in the program here today. But coming up in a moment to look at news, sports, and this state in history. But first, let's look at our forecast. What do we have weather-wise for us today?
Sunshine will remain with us again today before turning partly sunny tomorrow. 82 today, 85 tomorrow. And then the rain moves in Friday through Monday. And again, as we touched on that briefly yesterday, that will be the remnants of Hurricane Francis, or is it Francine?
I can't remember.
It's supposed to hit around St. Charles, Louisiana, I believe this afternoon. Is today? Today's Wednesday.
Yeah,
yes.
I was thinking it was already on ground.
No, they were talking about a Cat 2 sometime early this afternoon. So, and then that's going to continue on up into the Midwest, and we're anticipating rain as a leftover, I guess, if you will, of that.
Okay. Remnant, as it were. Mm-hmm. We like that. The only other time I'd ever heard about remnants was carpeting, in that regard. All right, coming up next, we'll take a look at what's making news for us today. But first, let's tell you about our friends at Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, your trusted comfort advisor. And if you want to find out what they do, where they do it, and what products they offer, click on this ad anywhere you see it at littermedia.com. And when you click this, it will take you to their website, accuratehvac.com, where you can learn more about the services of Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. News on the way next.
It's time to get serious about your lawn. It's time to step up to the best mower brand money can buy. For nearly 4 decades, Skag has been the easy choice for lawn care professionals. Don't settle for anything less than simply the best when it comes to mowing your lawn. There's sure to be a Skag model that's perfect for your yard, big or small. Make your lawn the envy of the neighborhood. Visit your local Skag dealer today. Skag, simply the best.
Find a career you love with Pickaway Ross Adult Education. Skilled trades careers are in high demand with no signs of slowing down. Pickaway Ross offers career training programs with expert instructors and hands-on learning tactics to create a variety of opportunities. Visit our website for more information.
This is Andy Tomlinson. When ensuring what's important to you, our agents are there when you need us the most. Tomlinson Insurance, for the best coverage at the best cost. Visit us online at tomlinsonins.com to learn more.
Haynes Total Healthcare Center. Chiropractic, physical therapy, and nutritional needs. And, of course, if you need to know what's going on with Haynes, click on this ad at littermedia.com. It takes you to hayneshealth.com. They're celebrating their golden anniversary. They are 50 years old. So check it out, Haynes Total Healthcare Center. Coming up, a look at news and information, but of course you can always go to our website, which is littermedia.com. You'll be able to find out the stories that we've been working on. But we also have all of our social media, our YouTube channel, Spotify, as well as Litter Media Radio. Look at the upper right-hand corner of your screen right now, and you'll see all of those icons bunched together. Simply click those to take you where you need to go to get more details.
Here's what's making headlines today. Paint Valley Adam H. honored mental health advocates in the community last night in their 6th annual Recovery Celebration Awards banquet. Crisis Intervention Advocate Award went to Chillicothe Police Officer Josh Wright. The Mental Health Advocate is Kim Trapp. Substance Use Disorder Advocate is Renee Napier. Prevention Advocate Kim Tripp. Peer Recovery Support Advocate is Jessica Pfeiffer, and our good friend, the Reverend Troy Gray, is the Community Champion Award winner. So congratulations to all of those, and that was held just last night.
Recent renovations to the Waverly Police Station have included a new roof, offices, a mayor's court, and a police officer's training room. The decades-old building needed a makeover, and Flora BWXT Portsmouth helped fund the work. $35,271 donation from the Community Commitment Fund, and very much involved with Waverly and now the Waverly Police Department, helping spruce up the joint and make it a little more operable, not only for now, but for years to come.
Absolutely. Tip of the cap to Floor for helping out with that. Andrea Williams of United Way of Ross County was our special edition guest yesterday morning. She spoke about their current campaign, which has a goal this year of $725,000.
Very nice. You can hear the interview on not only here on our Facebook page video section, but also on YouTube to find out more. The Stand Down to End Homelessness event will be held this Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Chillicothe's Poland Park. Housing resources, health services, food, and clothing will all be available. This is open to the public, so if you would like to participate. Don't forget that the Honoring Heroes event is tonight. That is a parade that stretches all the way up Bridge Street, and that all goes from 6 until 8 p.m. There will be military displays, fire, police will be there, food, games, activities for the kids from 6 to 8 p.m. And up at Ohio Christian University, Tim Throckmorton will be putting on this 9/11 memorial event, and it takes place at 7 p.m. at Ohio Christian University. You will not, if you go out Route 22, you'll not miss it, because I'm sure you'll see a lot of also some other
first responders equipment.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In Fairfield County, State Route 159 bridge replacement is still in play. That is carrying traffic over Muddy Prairie Run, just north of Pleasant Valley Road in Fairfield County. This project should be done sometime next month, the month of October. So in the meantime, State Route 159 to 56 to US 22 to 159 is the detour.
You're asking again about the hurricane. It is Francine.
Francine.
Yes. Just wanted to look that up. Isn't it cool when you know somebody that has the name for that long list? I mean, they've got, 26 letters in the alphabet that they can use, but there have been times where we had so many storms that it's gone into additional names as well.
And we're old enough to remember that at one time it was only a female name.
Oh, yeah.
And they changed that because they thought that was not fair. Let the guys in on all the disaster.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
All those years they fought for equal rights, and now you want equal rights, meaning the guys. Was Hurricane Andrew the first?
It might have been one of the worst. At that time had more damage than Katrina was known mostly for the flooding. But I talked to some people who lived in that area of Florida, and they said it was like a bomb, an atom bomb went off over that area.
See, I want to say...
what's the racetrack that was down in that area? Homestead?
Homestead.
Yeah.
Yeah, down in
and there's an air
south
base
of Miami.
down there, I think, too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gentleman lived here in town. I think he passed away not long ago. But he had a home down there when Andrew came through and just eviscerated everything. Yeah. Rebuilt, and then what was the next devastating hurricane that came through there? It took the house again.
Wow.
So difficult experiences when you have these types of storms. I mean, here we don't experience hurricane. We experience the after effects of all the rain. But tornadoes and blizzards, those are the things that get us, certainly. All right, coming up in a moment, we'll take a look at sports with our high school roundup and more. But first, Scioto Valley Dumpsters.
Yeah, if you got a cleanup project, seems like we're always talking about cleanup projects. But this is something that requires a lot of junk that needs to go out. That's why you need that big orange dumpster. A free estimate is just a phone call away, 253-8389, Scioto Valley Dumpsters.
And in some instances, he'll even do some demo work for you, too. So keep that in mind as you look for Scioto Valley Dumpsters.
Our mobile banking app is changing the way we bank. Things are getting easier, transactions are getting safer, and you have access 24/7. All the functionality of banking you're used to, made easier to use, anywhere, anytime, and more secure than ever. Simple, seamless, safe. Download our Kingston National Bank mobility app today.
Pain was interfering with Tiffany's active lifestyle. Same-day hip replacement at the Adina Orthopedic and Spine Institute got her back to the community she calls home. At Adina, we do what we love, so you can too.
I was looking for a first job. I had been babysitting and decided it was something for a little more permanent. It pays very well. It's convenient. You can make your own schedule with the flexibility. That's something that I like. The people that I work with are great. I wouldn't ask for a better crew or management team to work for.
And don't forget that today is open interview day at McDonald's, so make sure you stop in if you're looking for some work. They no doubt have some work for you to do at McDonald's.
I'm loving it.
Time for sports, and we begin with our high school roundup.
Yeah, big matchup in SVC volleyball last night. Adina swept Huntington in the last of the two conference unbeatens in that match. Adina's Katie Burns led the way with 15 kills. Corinne Day had 13. Casey Carroll led Huntington with 11 kills. Now, in some of the other scores last night, Unioto kept pace with a straight set win over Piketon. Unioto is just one match back of Adina now with 2 to play in the first round. Southeastern and Westfall were also winners. The table is now set in the FAC for Miami Trace Hillsborough tomorrow night. Both of those teams won in straight sets. Both are undefeated, not only in the conference, but overall at 8-0. Litter Media X, I'll be there tomorrow night at Miami Trace for that match with some live updates. Chillicothe got their first conference win with a sweep of Washington Courthouse. Probably the best high school volleyball team in this area is Bloom Carroll. These girls may not lose all year. They are loaded this year. They're also 7-0. Circleville and Logan Elm also winners. In the Buckeye, MSL Cardinal, Fisher Catholic, and Fairfield Christian were also winners. In the SOC, Waverly gets a win. Wheelersburg and South Webster lead the big division of the SOC. Both are undefeated in the conference. Notre Dame in the small division, they're undefeated. TVC winners include Athens and Alexander. In the OCC, Newark beat Teays Valley, Lancaster over Reynoldsburg, and in the OVC, Fairland was a winner over South Point. Now, in cross country, out in Frankfort last night, the Village Invitational. This thing has become huge. You couldn't find a parking place out there last night because you had this going on, plus the volleyball match.
So you left your car at home and just walked over?
I could have walked, but no, I couldn't have, because they were using the bike trail for
as the race.
The running course.
So put on your shorts and jump in.
Well, I don't think I could have passed for one of the runners, and I certainly wouldn't have passed any of the runners. But Uniota boys and girls win the team championship. Ethan Pertee of Uniota was the boys' individual champ, but Vanessa Conley of Edina was the girls' individual champ. Now moving on to soccer. Lebanon beat Chillicothe in boys action. Miami Trace was the winner, so was Hillsborough, Tays Valley, Portsmouth, Minford, and Ironton St. Joe. On the girls' side, Chillicothe beat Courthouse. McLean beat Trace, as in Miami Trace. Hillsborough over Jackson. Minford, this was a big matchup between these two teams. Minford and Wheelersburg. Minford beat them 1-0. Waverly over Northwest. Now, in girls tennis, Chillicothe edged Uniota, Waverly blanked Valley. And by the way, in that win, the Lady Tigers tennis team clinched their second straight SOC championship, or at least a share of it. They'll have a chance to win it outright with a win in the next matchup. And Circleville blanked Hamilton Township. Moving over to girls golf, we saw a tri-match with West Union beating both Zane Trace and Piketon. And in boys golf, Jackson turned the table on Chillicothe from match 5 to match 6. Jackson wins it. So there are two matches that separate Chillicothe and Jackson, with Jackson up, heading into that September 17th 18-hole tournament. Chillicothe still has a chance to win, but I think they've got to take both rounds, and Jackson would, I think they'd share the championship if Jackson was second, but they could win it outright, Chillicothe, if Jackson finished third under that scenario. But there were 4 players last night that shared medal honors. A tri-match that saw Notre Dame beat Waverly and Berg, and another matchup had Fairfield Union beating Logan, Wahama, that's down in West Virginia, as well as Sheridan.
Possibly. I don't know this will be the case, but if it's a close match in the FAC, maybe somebody will during a putt and throw them off.
I don't know what they would do in that case, whether they get a do-over on their shot or what they do. I know in tennis they're really big about being quiet on the serve. So.
And Reds fans were not quiet last night.
This?
3-0 win. What is that, 4 straight wins now or 3?
Who'd we finish up the series over the weekend with?
The Mets lost the first 2, but won Sunday. Yeah. Defeated Atlanta on Monday, and this is 3rd in a row. Okay. This time over St. Louis, and they're 4th in a row over St. Louis. They swept them back when we had a little bit of hope and gumption. They got us pumped up with that series sweep with St. Louis, and then they fizzled for like 8 games. Right. But here they are. Congratulations on a 3-0 win. They'll go back at it again this evening. And the Guardians shouldn't have any issue with the Chicago White Sox, and they didn't.
5-0.
Finally, they're 5-0. What is that, the 113th loss for the White Sox on the season?
It's a record. Yeah, a record you wouldn't want. Now, 5-0 means call the cops, right? So the White Sox are saying, call the cops, get this thing over with. Yeah, 5-0.
Our friend Stephen Forsha is a Chicago White Sox fan, and he's with Highland County Press, and he is having a miserable summer. Yeah. But he was picked up when his Cowboys beat the Browns over Sunday. So
he was due.
Yes, winners and losers as they were. You want to find out more about the sports? If you missed what we were going through on the scoreboard, check it out on our website, littermedia.com, and you'll be able to see all the scores that Mike works so feverishly on each and every week.
12:20 this morning is when we wrapped it up.
I wondered why I didn't receive anything before then.
Yeah.
So
it still took me till 7:30 this morning to get another score that wasn't available to us until this morning. So,
one thing we didn't talk about was our Litter Media game of the week. It is Lancaster at Tays Valley, and we will have our Litter Media game of the week preview show tomorrow at noon. Still trying to connect with Coach Brian Cross from Tays Valley, but I visited with Brian Schoonover yesterday afternoon. He is the head coach of the Lancaster Golden Gales. And surprise, surprise, I mentioned to him one of the last games I did with Lancaster, Bobby Carpenter was playing for the Golden Gales.
It's been a while.
And he says, that's pretty cool. He's a big supporter of what we do here. Surprise, surprise. That's where Rob Carpenter was the head coach for, 25 seasons, something like that, for the Lancaster Golden Gales. All right, on the way, remembering 9/11, this date in history.
Litter Quality Propane, they want to let you know that there's no bill when there's a fill. Contact Litter Quality Propane today about our metered gas service and do it at litterpropane.com.
And I don't know this for sure. I'll have to double check with the roster, but I don't know that there's a fill when there's a fill or a bill when there's a fill. I'm not sure what the truck drivers' names are, all of them.
Oh, I never thought of that. Yeah.
So, Litter Quality Propane at litterpropane.com. For transportation options in Ross County, call Ross County Health District's Mobility Management Team, 740-779-9652. Each week, we'll announce the Neil Coleman Insurance Wyandotte Mutual Litter Media Player of the Week, presented by Homeland Credit Union. And in December, we'll announce the Player of the Year. Nominate any amateur athlete by visiting littermedia.com and click on Player of the Week. You'll also see the players we've named throughout the year. Make your nomination today for the Neil Coleman Insurance Wyandotte Mutual Litter Media Player of the Week, presented by Homeland Credit Union. Are you looking for a beer that satisfies your thirst and love of country? Armed Forces Brewing Company brews beer for patriots. Celebrate freedom with every sip. Armed Forces Brewing Company. Freedom never tasted so good. Discover Ross County. From the breathtaking outdoor adventures to the historic sights of Chillicothe and family-friendly events and festivals. Explore more at visitchillicotheohio.com or download the free mobile app today. Time for this date in history.
Well, this one probably is a given. This date in 2001, at 8:46 a.m. on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines Boeing 767 loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact left a gaping, burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper, instantly killing hundreds of people and trapping hundreds more. It was at 9:03 that the second plane hit. Then later in the hour, it was the Pentagon that was struck by a third plane. Of course, Flight 93, with those courageous passengers on board, made sure that that plane did not reach its destination, and it went down in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. But 23 years ago today, remembering this worst attack on the American homeland in history.
I want to talk about our experiences here at that moment in just a moment, but I jotted down some notes that were tied in with a lot of this. And the first one that hit me was my sister's reaction, because she had been atop of the towers just the week before. And to see something it's like, man, I was there just last week. You can only imagine what your mind goes through. Virginia Purdy, who I worked for in West Union at the radio station there, one of her daughters worked in the Trade Center towers. She was able to escape unharmed. But again, the parent thinking about, I need to reach and talk to my kid, are you safe? Buzz Perry's dad, many of you know Laser Buzz, the CD guru, from his radio days. His dad helped build those towers, and I remember him telling me about before construction was complete, getting to ride on an elevator on the outside, going up in one of those construction elevators, not a secure elevator. So you're talking 1970s. Sure, there were safety measures put into place, but not to the regulations that we have today for construction. Remembering Chillicothe High School swim and girls soccer coach Pam Allen, a New York City native, and hearing her first reaction to what was going on there. And if you knew anybody that was from New York City, it was just immediate, giving you a different perspective. Dave Tenner's daughter, Kara, Dave used to be the executive director of the Ross County YMCA. She was working in the Pentagon when the plane had crashed in there. And I remember hearing him tell me about the peril he went through as a parent. You know, I haven't heard from my daughter. What can I do? Can I get there to be there with her? Well, nobody was traveling at that time due to the restrictions. Hearing retired firefighter Alan Wallace's account of the strike on the Pentagon. He was at the Chillicothe VA Medical Center, and that was just 5 years ago during their remembrance event, which was going on earlier this morning. And hearing a firsthand account of, you know, the Pentagon's been hit. And it's just like, what? Was it a bomb? No, it was a plane. And so they rushed over to get things taken care of, as a firefighter would have done. Our multiple interviews during Dan and Mike with people in the years afterwards that had written books or commemorating the event, and talking with firemen, policemen who lost friends, brothers and sisters in this effort. Those are things that will probably stay with me forever.
Yeah. A friend that I had that was a native of New York City who lived here in Chillicothe in 2010, he and his wife had taken a walk the day before on September the 10th because their children stayed in a daycare in the World Trade Center. They were taking a walk. They walked past the Trade Center the day before. For some reason, she didn't take the kids to the Trade Center on the 11th. I don't know. I think she might have had a day off. But Chris Bellori, his name, he was, I believe, a delivery driver for a dairy company at that time. And if you've seen any of the coverage, History Channel has all kind of coverage on 9/11 Remembrance Today. The island of Manhattan was locked down. You could not leave Manhattan for a certain amount of time.
Right.
So he's going down the West Side Highway when he sees all of this going on. He's trying to get over the Brooklyn Bridge to get off and when he got to the bridge, the Army was already there. And all of the bridges were shut down. Now later, down in the Battery area of the island of Manhattan, where just not too far from the Trade Center, they were starting to let people get off of that part of the island, mostly by boat, because the subways in that part of the trains ran underneath the Trade Center.
Right.
Well, those people couldn't use the trains because the buildings were collapsing. So, yeah, that as far as my what I was doing at that moment, I was reading the 9 o'clock news on WKKJ, and we had a wire service that came up over our computer that I read the local news on, and there was a bulletin flash that a small plane, is what they thought it was at first, hit the World Trade Center. Well, that was the first one. But before the newscast ended at 9:05, it came over that a second plane hit. So we were a part of the ABC network at that time with our country station, Charlie Derrick, who was a popular morning show host who visited the Ross County Fair 2 years in a row. So everybody remembered Charlie. He hadn't been saying anything about it. When I got off the news, I called Dallas, where he was located, and said, Charlie, do you know what's going on in New York City? And he didn't know. So he put me on his show, and I was going out national talking about what I knew. And then by that time, they had hooked up to the late Peter Jennings, who was the ABC news anchor at that time for the evening news. And then we were wall-to-wall coverage the rest of the day with all of that. So,
at the time, we had been working together, And then the station was going through its, 200th sale. And so 7 months earlier, WBEX was separated from WKKJ, and so we had moved to where the radio stations are now. They're at 45 West Main Street, and I was the only remaining announcer from WBEX that made that move. Kelly McNeil was with us, but she moved on to another position elsewhere. But that particular morning, Rebecca Pollard was doing the news, and that was on WFCB at the time, B94. And I had seen the wire copy come across about 8:43. It said, a plane has hit. And she had gotten into the newscast like you were, and a second announcement came across. And I don't step into a studio unless I have some, and she knew that because I placed that piece of paper in front of her face. She had her own script prepared and everything, but this was happening now. And so I placed it. She paused, did a quick read of it, and her jaw just dropped. And then she read this because she knew I wouldn't just hand her something like that. It wasn't a joke. And the rest of the day was just chaos. We didn't have a TV. The internet wasn't what we know the internet to be today. And so while I was doing everything with WBEX and running and checking for WCBS on the satellite receivers and everything, I was doing all of that, and I'm thinking, what do we do about all the commercials and everything? Because this is unprecedented for us. You know, it was wall-to-wall coverage. WCBS was, we were in the newsroom in New York City for them. One of the things that got past us, we went back in 2005, and you could still see the tributes that were along the wall near the construction site of what was to become the new towers. And was it Freedom Tower, they call it?
It is now, yeah.
And so at that time, there were still either tributes or missing, and people's faces, names, the real connection to all that. But we had taken a trip over to the Empire State Building, and at the time, it was Clear Channel. Their engineer invited us to go up and see the transmitters, which were on top of the Empire State Building. They had just moved those. Had those planes hit the towers before, there would have been no broadcast amongst the largest broadcast market in the world,
right?
So, or at least the country at the time. So there was a lot of things that happened, and life for me changed because we still were trying to figure out how we programmed the rest of everything. Sure. And I didn't have assistants really to jump in on it. Bob Neal helped out where he could, but he was still learning the radio station. Yeah. And that's where the Glenn Beck program began, was the very next day on September 12th. And so he's now 23 years into his show as we know it now. So
I know as the things unfolded throughout the day, of course, we went through the list of things that happened. But after the plane was taken down at Shanksville, Pennsylvania, Tracy Taylor, who was a colleague of ours, Tracy was from Clarion, Pennsylvania, before he and his wife Jody moved here to Chillicothe. And Tracy came into the studio and he said, this can't be right that this report, if this was a terrorist, it can't be right, because he says there's nothing in Shanksville but open fields. Mm-hmm. Well, now we know that it was the passengers that took control or tried to take control of the plane to keep it from going to its ultimate destination, which we believe now was the Capitol building. And that's where it went down. That's why it went down in Shanksville. Mm-hmm. Been to New York City. Actually, the Freedom Tower, which is now complete, 1,776 feet tall by purpose. Mm-hmm. When I was there in 2010, they were only up to the 60-something floor of construction. So there was a lot more to go. but they did have some old fire engines and things that were still on display at some of the nearby firehouses that were, they were crushed, and it was just incredible seeing, what was there or what was left of some of those.
It seems a number of people that I have known who have gone back and toured the tower itself now, it seems like there's some remnants of like fire engines and things they have on display there.
Well, there's a museum there.
So, yeah. And back to my original thought about not having a TV, I hadn't seen anything. It was all the theater of the mind for me. And by the time I did get home, Missy, her mother, Dan Jr., they'd all experienced it in some fashion. And they'd been watching it on TV because she went over to get Danny from school and brought him back and all. And so I'm seeing this stuff for the first time, and they're like, oh, they had not really gotten tired of it, but they had watched enough of it where they didn't want to see any more. All the while, I'm thinking, for the last 8 hours, I've been hearing all about it, but I want to see it. So then Missy and I went to the old Damon Steakhouse, which is now no longer, but we went for our anniversary dinner. And it was just a somber feel. Right. And it was a normal day, but we were talking about the events of the day. And after we left the restaurant, there were cars everywhere. At the certified station on North Bridge, a big long line. People were standing up looking outside their, and I'm like, what's going on? And I called Bob Neal, who was at the radio station at the time, because we were going around the business loop back to Pike County. And I looked up Main Street, and it was the same thing. It was like a parade of cars just stuck in a little traffic jam. And he says, Dan, the place is going nuts. People are panicking. And then, of course, we saw about the price gouging out in Bourneville at the time. And when we got home, it had gotten dark. And that's when the only light I could see in the house was the illumination of the TV. And Dan Jr. was sitting there as President Bush was about to address the nation. And when we walked in, he said, I know what I got to do. And he and a number of other people did the same thing, stepped up, volunteered, joined the military. And I think about all the number of kids today that don't have their parents because of the war.
Right.
Now, I can sit here and feel the passion or compassion for those people, but that's been going since the very first war.
Sure.
It happens to everyone. We will have peace one day on this earth, but it won't be probably the kind of peace that people are trying to get today.
I know we had phone calls. The phone was just ringing constantly. And there was a lady that I talked to, and she was crying. And she said, is this the end of the world? And I said, well, I don't think so. But if it is, are you ready? So I had a chance to talk to her about the Lord before she hung up. I don't know if Clear Channel wanted me to do it that way, but I didn't care at that point. This was bigger than rules and regulations.
Well, that was the local level, doggone it.
Yeah.
And you couldn't ask for more local than that, a phone conversation between two people here in Ross County. So for those of you that didn't experience it, I think about that with my teenagers in our Sunday school class. We talked about it last Sunday, and as I was conveying it to them, they were receiving the information, but they didn't know the experience. And I thought back to when I was their age and the separation between December 7th of 1941 and my birth. I didn't know about it, but I know a number of people that experienced Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And so you live vicariously through some of that. And as you mentioned, there's documentaries all over the place right now on the History Channel, and National Geographic has a boatload of libraries on there, so if you want to check that out on their streaming channel as well. So, any final words?
I don't think we should ever forget. There are some in our society that wants to. We can't talk about that.
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake. We cannot forget what happened when every time you walk through an airport and you have to go through TSA, and some of these folks are really kind of grumpy sometimes. You're tempted to get frustrated, but then I thank God those folks are here to make sure this plane ride is going to be as safe as it possibly can be, because there was no TSA on September 11th of 2001. The security was very lax at that time.
It seems an inconvenience, but it's for your safety.
Absolutely.
And that's the same as a traffic light.
Yep.
People don't want to wait on the traffic light. It's there for a reason, and it's not to mess up your day. It's there to keep you safe and the others around you. All right, that's it for this edition of Litter Media Live. We are back at it again tomorrow with this show and our Litter Media Game of the Week preview show at noon tomorrow. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be back with you again tomorrow on Litter